Lions Rock Productions.
This is Jay Moore.
This is Greg Cruz.
This is Dan.
This
Stone.
is Dexter from The Offspring.
Nathan
This
East.
is Sebastian Younger.
This is David Lab.
This is Stuart Copeland.
This is Mick
I'm
Gillette.
Christopher
This is
Knopf.
Dr. Bob Greenberg.
I'm Laird Hamilton.
This is Rob Bell.
Hey, this is John Leon Guerrero.
Hey, I'm Mark Valley.
Hey, and this is Pete A. Turner.
Hey, this is John Leon Guerrero.
Hey, and this is Pete A. Turner.
And now, the Break It Down Show with John Leon Guerrero, Mark Valley, and Pete A. Turner.
Boy, howdy, do we have an album fight for you this week, folks.
Man, this is like 91 was a seminal year in recorded music history. REM came out hard. Metallica had changed things up. U2 and Nirvana came out big, and they're our fight today.
Yeah, that's right. Today's fight is two albums that came out in 91. They were both turning points for the bands. Nirvana's breakout album, Nevermind, and U2's seventh studio album, Achtung Baby.
What were your initial thoughts going in as you thought about back to that time? What stood out in your mind?
Well, by now, U2 were already rock stars. So Nevermind, for instance, okay, that was a turning point for a number of reasons. They had a huge success. It was their first album with Dave Grohl on the drums. It was their first major label release. It was on DGC, which is a Geffen imprint. It was their first number one album. They sold 11 million copies of this record in the United States and 30 million worldwide. And here's my initial impression. I was a long-haired drummer in a metal band. And if you were that, or if you were anything made out of spandex or leather, this album signaled the end of your hopes and dreams on Sunset Boulevard.
It did. It changed all of that. And it also took the masculinity and the dominance and like I'll say the jock-centric kind of vibe of rock and roll. Mm-hmm. And it said, hey, this kid grew up as a latchkey kid, needed pills to get through each day, and had a divorced mom. And we're like, Oh, wait, there's some real shit to talk about here.
Well, and what happened was rock and roll was rock and roll again.
Yeah.
So you're talking about something that happened that made it less formulaic and it had become homogenized.
Yeah.
So real quick, close your eyes and point out the differences between Great White and, I don't know.
White Snake.
But, yeah. I mean, I'll tell you the difference between Great White and White Snake, though, was about 14 years.
Yeah.
But, yeah, along those lines, I mean, if you take like a middling metal band from 1989 against another middling metal band from 1989, they were the fucking same.
Yeah.
So
they'd run out of ideas.
Right. That was the problem. And so what happens when you have a lack of ideas in rock and roll? You go to the most fucked up. And Kurt Cobain was the most fucked up.
Yeah. That whole Seattle sound erupted, partly because it was the rock and roll place in the nation. It's where the good music was happening and the inspiration was happening in a new area. And that's why there are so many great bands that came out of there at that time. They were all feeding off each other, and the competition was just skyrocketing.
Yeah. The competition was skyrocketing, and it became a well. And them needing Dave Grohl and him showing up just in the nick of time to make this record was important as well. On the other hand, Achtung Baby, they were already rock stars. They were polished. Got its title because U2's engineer, Joe O'Hurley, would say that to get someone's attention when they were doing their Berlin sessions. He was cleverly referencing Mel Brooks from The Producers, and I like that because it's nerdy and cool, but at the same time, U2 was letting in some electronic music influences, some industrial music influences, and some textures. And they had the help of Brian Eno and Daniel Lanois, and I feel like they opened up a more vibrant visual element. I mean, they were already so steeped in their identity as a musical band that they could start reaching into the visual and really become a multimedia experience without paying any expense to the music. I mean, they could be, I don't want to say they put it on autopilot, but they could focus on visuals and they could focus on theater, and still the music was better than practically anything else out there.
When they broke this mold, because both of these albums, I likened them to like they didn't kick down the door. They just ran right through the wall. You know, Nirvana said, "Hey, everybody, this is what rock and roll is now." But yeah, U2 did a different thing. They said, "We're going to go from being a great band where our peers are Metallica, REM, NXS, all these great bands that could fill arenas and stadiums."
Right.
And they said, "We're going to go dream it all up again." And we didn't know what was going to happen. This is them saying, this is what we figured out. And we took it. They took it to the level where they got to get to the very top of the rock and roll mountain because they were able to redefine who they were. Think about what a concert was prior to 1991. You know, Pink Floyd was known as being the greatest showman, and they had lasers and an inflatable pig.
Okay. Yeah.
I mean, that, you know, you had Eddie running around on the stage for.
I was just gonna say, Iron Maiden had Eddie.
Yeah. That was it. That was the rock version of a big. You know, there was no pyrotechnics. This was millions of dollars.
And I love Eddie.
Spent. Yeah, of course. There's nothing wrong with that. But look at the leap.
But he
happens.
is just a big inflatable pig running around anyway. You know, the equivalent of.
Right.
I think really U2 at this point, you know, they were already enormous rock stars, but this album cemented their enormity. They made the statement that they were going to exemplify and evolve the idiom like the Beatles. It was like rock stardom was never going to be without them from now on. We didn't have to worry about U2 anymore. They weren't going anywhere.
Right.
And they still haven't.
This is the thing about them. They found a new voice to sing from. Instead of describing something, instead of taking on just like a war-torn area and everything, they were able to be introspective. And that's why he put on these Mephisto and The Fly, these personas, so he could examine things that Bono couldn't do. That ability as an artist to find new voices and new ways to express yourself is... Well, it's game-changing. Again, it's that hallway, just bam, I just blasted through like, hey, dust off, like, yeah, I'm the Fly. And I can tell you different stories and get to new places that only the greatest songwriting people can do, like Sting can do, Paul McCartney. We're talking these kind of level players. He figured out how to open a whole new well of ideas, a whole new kind of tool set. And then that whole thing that Edge did with the Man and the Machine sound, the electronica, and taking them there. That's what makes this album special. And in the time, these guys enter their 30s, you know, the perfection of youth and the idealism, that stuff is lost now. You know, they've had their kids born. They understand what their responsibilities are. Edge's wife and him break up mid-album. All of these things, this is that, I don't want to say coming of age because that happens earlier, but this is the emergence of an adult band making adult music with adult skills. And
that's what it is. You can't just go there. You have to get there.
Mm-hmm.
And U2 had gotten there. So let's get at it. Let's start this fight.
All right. Well, the first round, we've got Smells Like Teen Spirit, which is the emblematic moment of this wall crushing. And then Zoo Station, which is similarly their like the last note played on Rattle and Hum comes from All I Want Is You.
Yeah.
And that's a different era. And so here's Zoo Station going, like, what?
Yep.
Like, these sounds are so different. What did you think about this matchup?
Do you think about like the difference between the end of Van Halen 1 and the beginning of Van Halen 2? It's clearly a sequel. This is a whole different movie. So I think the sonic composition at Zoo Station is top notch. It's like the entry hall in a Frank Lloyd Wright. From the moment you step in, there are elements of originality, elements of texture, and execution of purpose that's undeniable. And after that, it's a well-done song. But to me, it's not... It's hard to say it's not special, but it's not special. It's finely done, but unexceptional. Smells Like Teen Spirit, though. You know, this song pulled the curtain open on grunge. So from the very start, there was something different, something special about it. It was like Kurt Cobain's hair. It was semi-clean at best and just different.
Right.
You know, you couldn't compare his hair to David Coverdale's hair. It was different. And, you know, and this was strummed on a Fender Jaguar. Who the fuck has one of those?
Right.
You know? And then comes Dave Grohl, heavy, hard, but greasy quarter note flams like the Gap Band. I mean, the composition, the verse ramped up to the chorus, the hello, hello, and then coming out of the chorus, the way they soloed that guitar note channel, the engineers out there will know what I'm talking about. That dun 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 wow, that was so good. It was, it was like top-notch hip-hop production. Isolating a layer for that one note, and then they ramp back down to the verse, and the guitar replicates the hello, hello. Fuck, man, it's genius. So I'm going to go back 2 album fights ago and bring up Ice Cream Man from Van Halen 1. Not that I think it inspires this concept, but both songs share something I like a lot, which is the dynamic interplay between the verses and the chorus. They have that verse that kind of is calm and it's held back and it's sparse. And then they kick into the chorus and the distortion and the overdrive, and Dave Grohl starts hitting shit real hard. And it's a separation in the songs that I think they leaned on really heavily because they did it really well. So for me, Zoo Station was emblematic of U2's reinvention. Smells Like Teen Spirit, though, that was emblematic of rock music's reinvention. So...
yeah, that's the difference maker for me. I agree with you. I went 10-9 in this round. Almost very, very similar assessment. The song Zoo Station is fantastic, and any band should be proud to have that in their catalog, and it is absolutely the perfect way to open up this album. It is great. But if you're going to ask me what's the difference, it's the impact of Smells Like Teen Spirit. And I typically don't watch the video, but in this case, I want to bring the video up because it so perfectly captures, the song captures the high school experience for the other kid. It's these different groups and everything else, and he's trying to sort through it. So there is a pallor over the video, and there is that dirtiness, that Hang 10 shirt that a cool kid would wear 10 years earlier is what this guy's wearing, so it's this whole
right
it's this whole vibe where like everything about this kid is wrong, and he's revealing it, and the cheerleaders are like and it's a kid that is drugged up to get through the day, and this is what his world is like, and that's such... it is, for grunge music, it is the spark. It is the thing that allows all the rest of it to happen. And it doesn't matter what song that is. In this context, these 2 great songs, Smells Like Teen Spirit is the better song.
Yeah, undeniable. So just a side note. Nevermind was originally mastered by Howie Weinberg, and he's amazing. Did a tremendous job making Nevermind so beautifully heavy. But the 25th anniversary version was mastered by Bob Ludwig because the band by then had sort of, Kurt Cobain was like, yeah, in retrospect, I don't know if I liked how that was mastered. They liked it at the time, but they brought Bob Ludwig in. So here's my story about Bob Ludwig. Our frequent guest engineer, my cousin Daryl, has a studio in Sacramento, and at one point, we needed an Akai MPC. We had an Akai MPC 60 early on, like any other rap studio. And he, at some point, had gotten rid of it. And then when he wanted to rebuild the studio, he purchased an Akai MPC. I think he bought a 3000, MPC 3000. And he bought it used. I'm not sure how he got it or where he got it from. But it came with a box of auxiliary shit, and we started working with that machine, and it was great. It was beautiful. It was upgraded. It was, it was a beautiful machine. It was a great buy. At some point, we started digging through that box of extra shit, and we found Bob Ludwig's library of drum sounds.
Wow.
Yeah, that fucked us up. We were like, hold on. And it was labeled like this was Bob Ludwig's. So I think we bought Bob Ludwig's drum machine, and it came with all the drum sounds. Undoubtedly, had to include some of the sounds that he poached from here because this was big for drum sounds and it was revolutionary. So I think we have some original Dave Grohl recorded drum samples in Daryl's Akai MPC 3000. And I just wanted to plug Daryl. So there's that story. So we have made it through track 1, and we're 15 minutes in. I'm going to pick up the pace here. So round 2. Even Better Than the Real Thing versus In Bloom. You remember that first time JJ was on our show, Jay Moore, and he sang that loungy swing version of In Bloom? For that alone, this song wins. Seriously, that does create an advantage, though. So, along with Chris Novoselic's bass line that's swimming in subtlety, I know you don't think that much of Chris Novoselic, but man, if you go back and dig deep into this mix and listen to his bass line, between that and Grohl's masculine flammy fills and tom rolls and how Kurt Cobain communicates through his growling tremolo, man, In Bloom is so good. Even Better Than the Real Thing was based on a guitar riff that the Edge wrote while they were still on the Rattle and Hum tour, and I imagine it happened while they were somewhere far from home, sitting in a rice paddy smelling napalm in the morning, because it reminds me of the Chamber Brothers' Time Has Come Today. If you go listen to that little nugget of the beginning of Time Has Come Today, you'll hear it in Even Better Than the Real Thing. I'm a little disappointed because Richard Branson at some point wanted to use the song for a Virgin Cola campaign, and Virgin Cola, of course, died, but he wanted to use it against Coca-Cola, which had their slogan was "It's the Real Thing," and that would have been cool, but U2 didn't let him do it. And the video for the song was pretty good and directed by Kevin Godley from Godley and Cream, so that's kind of cool. But none of that makes this song all that special. And it's kind of like the Fashion Island Mall in Newport Beach, which is not far from your house. It's beautifully designed. It's beautiful. Yes. It's gorgeous, but it's just not special.
I actually gave this round to U2. Partly one of the things is sometimes U2 gives the song up to the rhythm section, and this is one of those times where Adam really lays it down. And when he does it well. The songs tend to elevate. The Edge does what he does, and nobody's ever done it like him. So this isn't, like you said, this isn't special, but this is a good representation of why the Edge is special. And Bono sings about love in a way that reflects on how she makes him feel, which is, it's a unique perspective you don't hear enough. I think this song comes down to the lyric, and we're going to see this a lot where we have a couple of very powerful lyricists, and the taste that comes with that. I gave this one to U2 because Bono just does more. Help me out with what Larry does. He doesn't really hit the hi-hat at all, and he kind of messes around on the snare. Talk to me. This song kind of felt funky to me a little bit. What did I hear on the drums with Larry this time?
Well, here's the unfortunate thing is that being a drummer and hearing what Larry did, I can identify with what you're talking about. But the thing that keeps Larry Mullen Jr. from earning the esteem of drummers is that the things that make a drum part unique are typically buried in, they're either because a drummer has such a deep ass pocket, which he's got a great pocket, but the other separator is what you do in between the lines. And Omar Hakim does amazing stuff between the lines. Bernard Purdie created a career of hit records in the thousands based on what he plays between the lines. The stuff that Larry Mullen Jr. plays includes things between the lines that he comes back and puts in there. And so that's what, a guy like Bernard Purdie, he would play that part. A guy like Rick Marotta, he would play that part. Larry plays the pocket part, and then he goes back and plays the stuff between the lines. And so, yeah, it's a good part. I wish he had the chops to play it all at once.
Yeah, and I guess you can't fault the process because the process does work. They get in there and they do it, and he gets there. Chris Novoselic shows up in this song. One of the things that I'm worried is that he's got enough to hold up his end of the bargain, and so we'll see what happens later in the fight. But like I said, we split on this one, and I wonder if Cobain's undeveloped. I worry that his high school kid poetry book is not up to the task. And I'm really concerned about that in the fight going forward because this, I think, is the first indication that a 35-year-old Kurt Cobain writes this song better and in a way that matters more.
That's going to show up. It shows up a lot later on in my notes because what we're dealing with here is a kid who changed the world. But he's a kid, and you're right. He's got that high school notebook worth of Michelle Broke My Heart shit.
Yeah.
And it's raw, and he's wounded, And there's something about that that attracts us. But after a while, Bono's just got an enormous toolbox.
Yeah, and if you recall from the time, one of the things that freaked Kurt Cobain out was, how do I keep doing this?
Yeah.
You know, like, and I think he felt, even if it was imposter syndrome, he felt like I can't keep doing this. And I think that we're starting now, 25 years later, to be able to go, huh, yeah, that might make sense.
Boy, did we put a lot of pressure on that guy to keep doing it.
No kidding.
You know, Kurt Cobain may be subtly the reason why Dave Chappelle decided, I'm going to go to Africa.
Yeah.
Not sign this $150 million contract because I don't want to end up eating a shotgun.
I think there's a lot to be said for that making that decision, because what a shock not a surprise, but what a shock it was. Because I think, again, those of us who were adults at that time were like, oh man, that guy, at least he's not suffering anymore. You know, like I can't believe it happened. But then again, it's not a surprise.
That's true.
Round 3.
Round 3. Whew. Come As You Are. Man, what a song. It was more subtle in its use of dynamic differences, tagging the parts of the song, but it was so different from all the melody lines in rock that came in the decades before it that it pulled me in hard. And once again, Chris Novoselic, you got to dig deep in the mix to find him, but man, you have to skip a whole generation of rock bass players to go back to what he was channeling. I mean, John Entwistle, Geezer Butler, just great choices in bass melody. And you can't talk about Come As You Are, though, without mentioning Killing Joke.
Yeah.
Their song 80s. So it was just so similar that, not that U2 had to win on punitive damages, but going up against one, no chance.
Well, this is
no chance.
Yeah, this is the problem. This is the problem. Like, I agree. I made a note. First note I make is Novoselic's effect on the whole dissonant vibe, you know, between the guitar and the bass. It's fantastic. And Grohl comes in and leaves plenty of room, but when he hits that drum, every time he hits the shit out of it. And
Right.
It's just, you know, and this is a great song, and I love that it's on Kurt Cobain's hometown, you know, where it's like, Come As You Are. Like, it's a great idea for a song, and I want to spend a moment just celebrating that, because this is a great song, and it's one of the very best that Nirvana, I think, ever did, because it isn't in their shtick zone. It's like, this is what they do well, and when Novoselic shows up, the song is always good. Great bands. The historic bands write enough great songs that some songs reach that exit velocity and get to a different level, and they reach perfection, and one is one of those songs.
Yeah.
And there's just no way that Come As You Are beats
just no
that.
way.
Just no way. Yeah.
It's just unfortunate placement, you know?
Yeah.
I mean, and I think
it is.
You got to give a little something to one for being the song that might have saved U2.
Yeah.
Because in all the reinvention, there was so much tension, and the guys were having a hard time agreeing on the direction of the work and the identity of the band. And at one point during the Berlin sessions, when stuff was about to fall apart, Edge just dropped this chord progression on the band, and they got into it, and they figured out that, oh, this is why we're U2. And Bono wrote the lyrics, and, you know, he was inspired about the reunification of Germany.
Right.
And how if the country could do it, then the band could do it too, and the song was born.
Yes.
And it even, I mean, Bono's charitable organization is the One Campaign. And, you know, when they released it as a single in the beginning of 92, they donated all the proceeds to AIDS research. So the song is a big mission and important in the history of musical optimism. And it's a great, great song. And unfortunately, I don't tend to wake up on a gray Sunday morning and think, ooh, I want to hear me some One. But going back to this song, and this excuse to go back to the song reminded me, like, this body of work in this band is so vast that this song got lost in the weeds.
Yeah, this song. So this is the thing about U2. When they open the box and you hear the new song, what you don't understand is how much there is in each song. And this is one of those songs where different angles, it means different things. It's about Germans' unification. It's kind of their version of Oh God from Synchronicity from the last album Fight, where there's a loved one having a fight with another loved one. These guys are bound together, you know, and the lyric is so strong. And I didn't always pull lyrics out, but in this one, you know, we hurt each other and then we do it again. Think about how cold that is. You know, like we know better and then we still do it, and we have to carry each other. And then he says that again, carry each other.
It's so strong.
Like a reminder.
It's so strong when he does that too. You know, the repetition of carry each other, because he's drumming it home. And man, such an impactful song.
It's almost like he says it back to himself too, like carry each other. Carry each other. You know, like he's reflecting. He's yelling at himself as much as he's yelling at whoever, you know, and the fact that you can take this song and apply it to the German reunification. You can apply it to a young kid coming out to his father, you know, because back then this was not that it's not significant now, but a much different deal back then. We weren't as prepared as a society to deal with that. So all these different people identify with this song. It's him and his father talking like they love each other. There's nothing they can do about it, but I'll be goddamned if we can get along. And here's a guy in his 30s and his dad and him are still having and continue to have these things. You know, will it make it easier on you now? You've got someone to blame. Did I disappoint you?
Wow.
Holy
yeah.
shit.
So
you
fucking
say that
heavy.
to your dad and your Bono.
Yeah.
You know?
Jesus.
That hits me in the spot right now.
God,
My eyes are
man.
welling up. You think about
Me
that.
too, man.
Yeah.
That's heavy.
Yeah.
Masterful piece of work.
Yeah.
There was no chance for anything running up against one.
No. I didn't make it a 2-point round because I do think Come As You Are is a stellar song.
I agree. That was the only thing, though, because
right.
it was just like, because Come As You Are is one of the very best songs on this album, anything else would have been crushed.
I got to rub some water out of my eyes because it's just so powerful.
Yeah.
All right, round 4. Let's do it.
Until the End of the World versus Breed. Again, Bono's lyrical ability wins this song single-handedly.
Yeah.
You know, it's about literally and literarily a come to Jesus meeting. And it's a conversation between Jesus and Judas, and they talk it out, and that's an amazing concept. So if I have one criticism about the song, it could have used a little more dynamic interplay that we've been talking about. You could back the verse off and then make the chorus more powerful, but here I am second guessing you too. This song was crazy. It was, it's an amazing concept, and how do you get near? This was like Sting bringing up Mephistopheles.
Mm-hmm.
So, and you can do it, and if you're cheap about it, you don't pull it off. But
no,
Sting doesn't have a problem pulling it off. Bono doesn't have a problem pulling it off, and you can't run up against it with very much and not come out the other end chewed up. I do like the aggressiveness of Breed, the seesaw lyrics and the guitar line. It's kind of punk riff that reminds me of our friend Dexter Holland and the Offspring and Come Out and Play. And I love that, but it's not as good as Come Out and Play, and it's certainly not as good as Until the End of the World. So round 4 to me goes to you two.
I pretty much right down the middle with you. Breed is a punk song, and I love punk, and I want to hear this song live at a festival that I'm at.
Yeah.
And one of the problems with rap and punk is that they are one-trick pony-ish, and this is the problem with punk. It's fast, it's aggressive, it's for 15-year-old boys to smash into each other and express their emotions. They're going against an adult album with adult skilled guys that's backed by Brian Eno, Daniel Lanois, Stephen Lillywhite, and Flood. That kind of trick will not work frequently against this kind of work. A conversation between Judas and Jesus, where Judas says this line, "In my dream I was drowning in my sorrows, but my swallows, they learned to swim." Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's just you're outgunned.
Yeah, that one lyric alone just absolutely hammers against whatever anger and aggression. This is a different thing. This is love betrayed because this is what I'm going to do. Like there's jealousy, there's deceit, there's all these things. So Breed is a song about being afraid to grow up and be responsible. And that song can be done better than just being like, I don't want to do this. I don't want to grow up. And that's very punk rockish. But again, when you're talking about Jesus versus Judas and the love and all of those things, there's no comparison in these two songs in terms of quality of musicianship and impact. The other thing I will say is if you go lyric for lyric in this song, just in Until the End of the World, it'll be the fastest 4-minute song you ever heard. There's so much in this song. It dominates Breed. There's just no way around it for me. It's for me, it's a 10-9 round.
It could even, I listed it as a 10-9 round, but what you are saying, I'm in agreement with, and it could easily have been a 10-8 round.
Yeah, I definitely felt that if Nirvana was going to serve up in any more rounds, this fight was going to get over in a hurry. I gave him the benefit of the doubt that there's more there, because there is.
Okay.
But and we're about to hear it.
Yes, we are.
Yeah, this easily could have been a 10-8 round, and I wouldn't fault anybody for saying that it was 10-8. I don't know that I would believe anybody who made a punk rock song a 10-9 over U2 in this case. I would struggle with that.
Yeah. So round 5 is Lithium versus Who's Gonna Ride Your Wild Horses. And Wild Horses, U2 toyed with this song for months, and Bono played a very developed version of the song for Jimmy Iovine, who told him to try to get it back as close to the original demo as he could. And they brought Steve Lillywhite in to mix the song and walked away from it and left him with it to because he had sort of fresh ears. And it's not a criticism of Steve Lillywhite, but I don't like the song that much. It's not to do with his mix either. I think they had just fucked with it and fucked with it and fucked with it, and after a while it just became a Frankenstein that was fucked with. And he probably pieced it back together in a way that made it a song. But Lithium, on the other hand, is about a guy who's so happy he's clearly not happy. It was an impactful song then, but fuck. The song about a guy who turns to God after contemplating suicide, written by a guy who we now know in retrospect killed himself. You know, it's a weirdly optimistic song, but it has a darkness because of Kurt Cobain's suicide. And so I went with Nirvana in round 5.
Yeah, we can make this quick. I think you nailed every single thing that I was thinking. I like what Adam does with the bass line. That's the bottom line. And it's when he does it right, it's New Year's Day, it's Get on Your Boots, it's this song. He's great in this song. The funny note, and I think you'll appreciate this, was when Q Magazine did their celebration of Achtung Baby and did a bunch of covers, Garbage covered this song, and Butch Vig did the producing on it. So I'm like,
yes. Wow.
Yeah. I knew you'd like that. So did Butch Vig ever think that a song that he'd produced on both sides would go head to head? The Garbage version was garbage also. It just wasn't good. Like you said, and I said this too, this song just never gets there. They tried to figure it out. And one of the problems that U2 has, especially with all these people working on it, is they wanted to do more and they like to push things. And I don't think they'd figure this formula out as a band. As much as they get right, having Brian Eno say, "You've lost the song," and having to say that a couple of times, pull it back. Having Jimmy Iovine saying, pull it back, pull out some of this layering. And sometimes they don't get it. And on this song, this is one of and the damn title's too damn long.
Yeah.
You know? Like, Who's Gonna Ride Your Wild Horses? Just call it Horses or Wild Horses or Ride or whatever, you know, but it's not as good. And when you look at Lithium, which is, it's a pillar song for the catalog for Nirvana. I mean, it's one that's always going to make them money. And like you said, as he's screaming, "I'm not going to crack," you think, who are you fooling? You fooling us or you? Because clearly this guy was going to crack. You know, this is a dude who's going to kill himself singing about how he's going to kill himself. And at the time, we got to go on the ride. But if you wanted to listen, you could hear it. And like, again, it wasn't a shock, yes, surprise, no, when he does this. And it makes the song take on a different meaning. And look how prophetic this song is for just entire, this drugged up, I'm not making a political statement, but just what's happened from like 1985 until 2005 in terms of how we handle people that are struggling chemically. And lithium is one of those things, and it's like, man, are you better off for this? I don't know. And his writing speaks to that for the next 20 some odd years.
Wow. Yeah. I just needed a heavy sigh after you said all that, because that deserves a pause.
Well, hold on. I want to say this. For me, because of the quality and the impact and the forethought of Lithium, this is a knockdown round for me. This is a 10-8 round, because this is Nirvana at their absolute best, and U2 cannot handle that, and they've got to take a knee and get a standing 8.
Oh, shit.
So that's how much this song is such a difference maker to me.
Wow. That's big. I went 10-9 Nirvana. You're going 10-8 Nirvana. Woo.
Yep. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, talk about round 6.
When you look at the context of this album, this maturation, in love and everything else, how they're dealing with the breakup of love, we see them hit this new gear. And this is the closing song from the first side. Larry shows up wonderfully, and I don't know what he does. I never can explain it, and you always have to tell me. But he is everything you need him to be. This is why he's in the greatest rock band, because he can deliver these things, and he has drum hooks that just get to places, and he does that. But once again, what really delivers this song over a very strong Polly song is the lyric. Desperation is a tender trap. It gets you every time. You put your lips to her lips to stop the lie.
Yeah.
Holy
This is another example of Bono winning on lyrics, and he's winning on lyrics because he can express, first of all, it's a life stage that, just like you said, Nirvana's not there yet. U2 as human beings are more developed, and Bono as a lyricist is more capable of conveying the subtleties in that human development. So it's just not a fight. This round is just... So Cruel is not my favorite U2 song. Honestly, I don't even like it. But here's where a lackluster U2 song is still better than most bands can do on their best day.
Yeah.
And the separation and that kind of stuff is something that he doesn't try hard to make it so that we can relate. He just weaves through the subtleties in that pain, and we all go, man, whether our pain is different, he makes the pain the universal part. The thing is, Polly is not good, and some out there are going to hate that I said that. I know, I'm going to piss somebody off, but I can't think of anyone I know who likes the song, and I don't like it either. They sound like a garage band. Not their best.
Yeah, I have to add a little more to this. This is the closer for side 1, and it's going to be sort of a coda later on to the closer for side 2. But this, and right in the middle of recording this album, this is when Edge and his first wife's marriage breaks up.
Yeah.
This is this moment where you're at a party and you're looking, and this line comes up. She wears my love like a see-through dress. Her lips say one thing, her movements something else. Oh, love, like a screaming flower. Love, dying every hour.
Yeah.
This is the death of that. And it's so cruel. She's so cruel. He's so cruel. Life, love, they're all so cruel. You're capturing exactly what it takes to go on with your life in your 30s. This is the first time where the world is punching you in the balls. And
this episode of the Break It Down Show is brought to you by Lions Rock Productions.
That's us.
We publish, evaluate, and develop podcasts just like this one, consult others to build their own, and create associated content and content marketing strategies.
So if you're launching or expanding your social media presence, your business, or your personal brand, or if you just want to take your media presence to the next level,
reach out to us on Twitter
at Pete A. Turner
or at JohnLG69
at the Break It Down Show.
There's 1,000 ways to get a hold of us.
Now enjoy the show.
That's what the song is about. It's just about life being, you are in love. You are together. You've grown up together, and it doesn't work. And you just now are realizing that we've got a real problem. And again, against Polly, like you said, this is not a polished band. This is a sub-pop label, and they do the best they can with what they got, but they don't got enough. This, for me, is a knockdown round.
Wow, 2 knockdown rounds in a row.
Yeah.
I think you captured that really well, in that pain is universal, and whether or not you've been through that very situation where you have something directly to tie it to, you can definitely empathize with the fact that here's a couple in love and it's not working. And U2 only ever performed this song live 4 times.
Wow.
And I feel like that's probably an indicator, and it was all on that Zoo TV tour. And I think that that's an indicator that they had at some point said, we have to put this to bed.
Yeah.
And maybe not consciously, maybe it wasn't a decision, but maybe the set list just went on without it, and it was easy to leave behind. So, I mean...
you play Pride instead because this is what's... Yeah.
Yep.
Okay. Let's get on to round 7.
Territorial Pissings versus The Fly. I loved Grohl's drumming in Territorial Pissings.
Uh-huh.
I've never been great at playing fast and being able to communicate, and that's one thing that Grohl is absolutely adept at, and he does it here. But besides that, the song is really just kind of in bloom, sped up. And this is Nirvana's songwriting reaching its capacity, and where U2 still has another gear. I mean, I have another visible gear. They probably have another gear after that.
Yeah.
And conversely, comparing drummers, one of the things about Larry Mullen Jr. is, like I said, keeps him from garnishing tons of esteem among drummers, is that this is one of the songs where he's kind of just back there. And I hate to say that because he is playing in service of the song in the truest definition of that phrase, but he is just back there. And I want him to be more communicative. He does come up with great parts that are often just the perfect part. And, this is one of the places where I wish he was just doing more.
I can wrap this up really fast. Territorial Pissings. I counted there's about 30 total distinct words in this song. And you can go ahead and do like the hook, repeat every now and then, and you're going to be fine with it. But when you do that multiple times in the same album, that is not good enough in this case. 30 total words is all you've got for this song. That's just not going to work against The Fly. This is the first song of the second side. If you're going to be in this game after getting knocked down, you've got to bring something else. I commented I definitely liked Grohl's drumming. And then I also said Larry's drums. I don't know what he does, but it's great. And I think John may not like him.
Yeah.
Because I'm like, this doesn't sound like regular drumming to me. And, I'm like, okay, so whatever he's doing, I don't understand it, and I like it. But that's the difference. And as soon as I hear the song, I go, oh, that's a Les Paul. I had forgotten that, and I had to go look and see, but Edge plays a Les Paul. But you can hear that sound. When you have an ear tuned for it, you're like, oh, yeah, that's a Les Paul. That means we're going to rock. We're going to do some things that, are unsettling. And then you think about why you grabbed the Les Paul. Because Bono's like, The Fly is a persona I'm taking on. It's a call from hell, and I'm going to let you in on some secrets, you 29-year-old knucklehead.
Yeah.
Every artist is a cannibal. Every poet is a thief. They kill their inspiration and sing about their grief. Like, yeah, that's something the devil is going to... It's like, let me let you in on a little something. This isn't just good and bad, all that kind of thing. There's other stuff going on. Let me tell you the truth about real life. And to take that point of view, to nail it down, to get the Les Paul to do the rock and roll thing, this is a cool song. And, for me, it's not close. And again, I think this is a knockdown because I've got nothing for Territorial Pissings. It's just look, here's the thing. Pennywise, this sounds like Pennywise to me. So I went to Pennywise Greatest Hits, clicked on the first song that I just went at random, and it's called Fight Till You Die. Play those two songs. Territorial Pissings and Fight Till You Die. Tell me which one's better.
Uh-huh.
And they sound exactly the fucking same. And Pennywise is the better punk band. As soon as you hear it, you go, Pennywise is way better. So this isn't even a good punk song.
Yeah.
I mean, granted, it came before Pennywise, but Pennywise does this significantly better, significantly more polished. And they have the chorus thing. This isn't a song that can be lifted up by any one person in the band. And Chris Novoselic's not even present in the song at all for me. So This is a 10-8 round, and this is where I'm like, yeah, we've got a real problem.
I want to interject a different word, though, because you say that they do it better, they do it more polished. And a punk fan is going to say, well, punk isn't about polish. So I'm gonna replace the word polish with developed.
Okay.
Just
yeah,
to say
that's
that,
fine.
that we're not talking about
that's good correction.
overproduction.
No.
We're just talking about one being better.
Yeah. Go listen to those two songs, and anybody tell me that Territorial Pissings is better than Pennywise's punk rock version of this, of their song. It's just there's no separation there, and that in our format that won't hold, and so that's why you got a very good statement in The Fly with what that song's job is, and in the context of this album, the lyric. Everything. Who's missing in U2 in this? Like that song is everything that Horses is not. The Fly is.
That's yes, yeah, okay. I didn't make that a 10-8 round. I made it a 10-9 round, but I think I probably just wasn't thinking. I did make round 8 a 10-8 round though, because it's not close. This is Mysterious Ways is U2 at their absolute most complicated, most groovy, most everybody at their top. And it's about a belly dancer or some shit. And okay, so hey, even better. Let's make it about a belly dancer and let's bring a belly dancer out on stage. It's also Daniel Lanois at his best. And the fucking song's got congas in it. So I'm done.
Yeah. You love congas.
I do. You know what? This song is for afternoon fucking. You could afternoon fuck the Mysterious Ways.
That's a 10-8 on the strength of that comment.
So boom, that's it. I will say though, there's a piece of Drain You that sounds like the chorus in Invisible Sun to me. So when you go back to Drain You, just listen for there's this one section in there, and you'll hear the chorus from Invisible Sun. And when you're saving grace in your song is, ooh, you sound like somebody else's song. That's not a good song.
Yeah, this is again. Kurt plays with repetition. That's one of my notes. He's doing the repetition thing again. I think the guitar work is great. They do that standard change of pace thing that they would do, and all of those things are classic Nirvana things. And again, I got to say that this is Novoselic again not showing up for whatever reason. He's so buried in the mix. There's nothing special about the bass line. You're asking a lot of Kurt Cobain to do this by himself, and just the lyric isn't strong enough to do it. For me, what we're seeing is a beaten but not defeated fighter. Like they're just like, I just can't. There's nothing I can do out there. I'm doing my best, and I'm not going to quit. I'm going to see this thing through. They can't knock me out, but I've taken their best shots, and here I am still. That's what this song is for me at this point in the fight. On the other side, Mysterious Ways, like you said, it's complex, it's layered, and there's so much going on. At one point, the Edge's guitar is a completely different instrument than it is later in the song. And that's not easy to do, to match those two things together. And this jam, the song that bore this song, also bore one. So they call audibles on chords, Bono, like live while they're jamming. He's like, this is a different song. Go here, here, and here. And he calls that, and the band can go with him. Bands that do that are special. His ability, the trust, the family that band is, where they can go along and come out with these two incredible songs, one in Mysterious Ways from the same Genesis thing. It's great. My favorite part of Mysterious Ways is right. So this, to me, this song is funky. Mm-hmm. It's got, and I don't know if that's thematically correct as far as like, what a musician would say, but there's a funk element to it. And then right around 250, it goes, dan, 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 and it changes gears and it goes right back into the same thing. You're like, oh, they changed tracks. Like the funk train's still going. It's like, no, we just changed the song a little bit. And that's Adam and Larry just taking the song and just kind of bending it around. I don't know how to describe that, but it's such a cool moment in the song. I love it. I love what it is. And I think Adam and Larry really, they make this song something special, and the Edge, his ability to do what he does that nobody else has ever done like him. He plays the guitar differently, and this is a great example of U2 being a band that no one else can do what they do.
Yeah.
I had a 10-9, by the way. So you had a 10-8.
I had a 10-8 on that one, yeah.
Okay.
Lounge Act versus Trying to Throw Your Arms Around the World. I didn't over-describe the difference here. I just like Lounge Act better.
Okay.
I'm not a big fan of Trying to Throw Your Arms Around the World. I think among the greatness that Achtung Baby gave us and those just glimmers of, those flashes of, those supernovas.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, it could be a case of trying to throw your arms around the world being one of those songs where if I gave this to another band, it would be their most amazing song. But as U2 songs go, and as U2 songs on this album go, I didn't really like it.
Yeah, this is an ugly round. It's a mid-round. Both bands aren't at their best at this point. I don't have really anything for Lounge Act. Grohl plays his heart out. Cobain sings his heart out. Novoselic doesn't show up. The lyric isn't special. The last 20 seconds of this song are what the entire song should have been about. That's when the song got there, and for whatever reason, they weren't able to maximize that. So I left, and I hadn't realized that until I listened to this song again. But I realized like this just is a failed song. It doesn't come together in the way it needs to. And again, U2, same thing. Trying to Throw Your Arms Around the World. It's a song they've never played live. It's filler. And that's just what it is. So if you want to call it 10-9, I'm fine with that. I don't think either song is indicative of what either band is capable of. So, 10-point must. So I went 10 points. But because U2 is dominating this fight, I'm just going to have to lean on their ability to continue. They're beating Nirvana song for song. And so I gave this round to them because they're dominating this fight.
Yeah, I hate to say it, but Nirvana is the young, scrappy fighter that everybody's excited about. There's a lot of flash and stuff, but there is an element here where you have to beat the champion. And if you don't beat the champion, then you don't win. And U2, they're the champion. So in that case, I gave Nirvana the win in that round 10-9, but if it's a tie, it's not a tie. So from that standpoint, I could see where you're coming from. I also gave Nirvana Stay Away. I actually like Stay Away quite a bit.
Oh, did you really?
Yeah.
Okay.
And Ultraviolet, the thing is, I like Ultraviolet too. I like Edge on a Gibson Explorer. I love the Gibson sound that he captures because he's such a different guitar player. And I dig it on Ultraviolet, but I really like Stay Away. And I think Stay Away in this context, in this sequence of songs, was their kind of last-ditch effort to give what they had. So they gave round 10 all that they had, and they fall off after this. But I gave them Stay Away.
Yeah, I love this Ultraviolet. I think it's one of my favorite U2 songs. And this is the thing about this, what I wrote. When a band is as good as these guys are, and we're talking like the Beatles, the Stones, you'll say, okay, well, Sympathy for the Devil is the greatest Rolling Stones song ever. But someone will say, yeah, but you know what? Brown Sugar. That's my favorite song. This is like their Eleanor Rigby song, where everybody loves Eleanor Rigby, but it's not their best song. That's what Ultraviolet is. This is a song that many tours later closed out as part of their encore. They use this song because of what's in it. And maybe they hadn't quite figured it out. But again, we're talking about this theme of love, and they're trying to sort it out. And it's like, what am I doing? Why do I feel this way? It's this light, this love that can be seen but can't be seen. And they're sorting through this thing. I love the lyric and how powerful it is, and how they're looking for something, and they know they feel love. And this is that when Edge meets the belly dancer from Mysterious Ways, she's lighting his way, and he's getting through this tough time. And it's part of that maturation that you can find love again. And I think that theme is better than what comes out of Stay Away. But you're right. This is them coming out for round 10. Like, if I'm going to get them, I've got to turn the fight around now. They come out on their toes. They come out working hard. They come out pumping a jab. And look, Cobain is great in this. Novoselic, I think, was pretty good, compared to what he delivered the rest of the album. If Kurt was a better lyricist, this song would win. But he's not.
Oh, man. Wow. That's a heavy thing to say, but you're right.
He's just not developed like Bono is.
Yeah.
Bono's getting to a different place. And maybe that's not fair because of the level they are in their career, but this is the best that Kurt ever did.
That's true.
So
that's true.
It's like if this is his best, Bono's is, it's like going against Sting. You're not going to be Sting's 8 is better than your 10 in almost every single round.
Yep.
And that's what we've got here,
Yeah.
at least in my opinion. And I don't fault anybody for liking Stay Away better because it's a fantastic song and it's more of a rocker. But I just think the lyric and the quality of U2 overall carries the day in this one.
Okay. Well, I will say that about Acrobat. I mean, it's in fucking 12/8. What rock band has the balls, first of all? Hey, let's do a song in 12/8. All right.
Yeah.
It just shows that their toolbox is just enormous, and they can do anything they want well, and you can't do shit to stop it. And at this point in the fight, with a song like On a Plane is it's not good. It's not good.
This is so crazy.
Yeah.
Well, look, and I have to say this, even though we're deep in the fight, obviously I'm an enormous U2 fan. I love Nirvana, and they're one of my favorite bands, but U2 is clearly my very, very, very favorite band, and it took me a while to tune wash my favoritism out. I worked hard to do that, and that's why I went to things like what do the instruments, what happens in the production, what happens in the lyrics, to really get to where they need to be. And maybe it's unfair to judge a grunge punk album on its production value, but that's what I had to do to get away from how much I love Acrobat. It's one of my favorite songs. I don't think it ever gets there in terms of this round, and I give this round to Nirvana.
Wow.
But I just think that, I think that when Nirvana does this is the best version of that, and that's shitty analysis. But the I'm on a plane thing, I'm on a plane, I can't complain, I'm on a plane. I think they finally got that part right. And if I'm going to give them one of these on the album, this is the time when I'm going to let them do that. I'm going to let the lyric be what it is. And Grohl is great. Chris never shows up, but that's neither here nor there. This is the time when those two guys take the song to where it needs to be, and only because Acrobat for me is U2 just ever so slightly slipping, or more accurately, what this is just a long medley. And this is how they close the thing out. You've got this love where you're like, I think I'm seeing and feeling love and it's going to be something. And then you've got to be an acrobat to pull that off. And then you're going to land on Love is Blindness. So this is sort of a segue song. It's kind of like the sacrifices you have to make between Star Wars and Empire Strikes Back and Return of the Jedi. Like, Empire had to do a lot of things. So maybe they don't get it right because of that. But I give this round to Nirvana, 10-9.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
Cool. Something in the way to Love is Blindness. The match is over. We're in the 12th round just to give Nirvana a chance to score a knockout. And look, I think it's a compliment in the highest order that we're taking essentially a punk record and putting it up against Achtung Baby in all its veteran status. I think if I was sitting next to Dave Grohl, and if I haven't said this, Dave Grohl is my hero. I love Dave Grohl in everything that he's done after this. I love just the way that he lives his life and pursues his art, and he's very self-deprecating and humble and appreciative of all the good fortune he's had, all that shit. I love Dave Grohl. There aren't enough words. But if he was sitting right next to me, I think he would say, oh, come on, this shit isn't... Really? It's not fair. Those two records don't compare. I think he would say that.
Yeah.
So just the fact that we're putting Nirvana in this match and that they've come as close as they've come, I think is, and should be, a deserved compliment. That said, something in the way, I think there was some issue with... I want to say that when it was mastered, the song was left off. I think there was some kind of miscommunication in the process, and Howie Weinberg didn't include this track in the first pressing. So they had pressed like 20,000 copies of the record, and then Nirvana had a copy. They were listening to it, and they were like, well, what happened to Something in the Way? And so what they did was when they reached out to Howie Weinberg, he said, "Oh shit, that must be my mistake. Let me remaster the thing and put it all together." And David Geffen stopped the presses, and all of the copies after that included Something in the Way. And Howie Weinberg included that big gap in the front of the song.
Yeah, there was an era of secret songs.
Yeah. I don't know. This is artistic and all that shit, but it was too little too late.
Yeah, so this is, if so cruel as the realization that this relationship is probably over and neither one of you believes in it anymore, this is the coda for that, and this is Love is Blindness. And I love Something in the Way. I love the story. I love the fact that it's Kurt and Butch just quiet, turning the fan off, recording this in the booth. I love all of that. And it's what makes this, it's a strong close. Both of these songs are dirges. They're both closing out on this kind of vibe. But what happens in Love is Blindness is different than what happens in Something in the Way. And I love Grohl's playing in this. I even like Chris playing. This is two great songs. This is a great way to close out what these albums are thematically. But that so cruel realization is now upon us, and this is Love is over. And there's all of these emotions, and what I want people to do when they go back and listen to this song is listen to the interplay between the words that Bono puts out and then how the Edge drips in the anger, because you are hurt, and then you want to go back to 5 days ago when things were better, but you can't, and then you get raged and you get mad and you can't control that, and that's Edge coming in. You just hear him. This is a solo like no solo has ever been done before, because it's not meant to be on a pentatonic scale. It's him just raging at this whole thing. You have to imagine him in his flat along the river that he has where he does all his creation, and he's just losing it and then getting it back together because there's nothing he can do. And then the rage comes back, and then the sorrow, and then the rage. And that maturity in songcraft can't be matched by Something in the Way. As great as Something in the Way is, this is just one more time where U2 just has more than what Nirvana does, because they're more mature, because the words are better, and because there's just way more people on U2's side, and they're willing to take chances, and they land those chances more frequently than pretty much every band has ever done. So that's how I wrap this up, is Love is Blindness. Listen to the interplay between Edge and Bono and how the words and the guitar, how they exchange emotion, and show me another song that does that.
I think they started to spend some time together that was a lot different, and it was the maturity of their friendship and their ability to communicate together and or for each other that did that. And it does, everything you said, which was just communicate on a more developed level. But I think that's what it is. I think it was the maturity of the band having almost broken up and been pissed off at each other. And I don't know, in the sequence of the recording of these songs where Love is Blindness ended up, it does have that, coda effect, and it is a close. I'm not sure if they recorded it last, but it does feel like it, and it feels genuine. And that's another thing about the band that is undeniable. Nirvana nailed it. Our David Mamet concept of show up on time, hit your mark, and tell the truth. And Nirvana was telling the truth because they sort of had no choice. Each member of U2 was telling his own truth, and the U2 as a band was telling the truth, not just because they had no choice, but because they could rip their heart open so much further. And that's how they closed this album.
Yeah, I want to say something more about that aspect, but you're right. This goes all the way back to Who the Fly is and Macfisto and all these things. They found a way to rip their heart open wider. Man, that is exactly right. It's exactly right. A couple quick notes about Love is Blindness. And again, this goes to the greatness of what the band does in general. Bono writes this song for Nina Simone, and tell me Nina Simone couldn't sing this song. She's about to go in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame.
Yeah.
then someone touches Bono and says, hey, don't do that. Let's keep this song. But he wrote a song with Frank Sinatra in mind, and part of that came from a song on here. But they nail it. They wrote a song for B.B. King. They nail it. They wrote a song for Luciano Pavarotti. They nail it. They wrote a song for Nina. Like, who does that? Who takes all these different angles at creating songs for other people? That's a special class of talent that, again, as impactful as Nevermind is as an album on all of music. You have to look at the song for song quality of what U2 delivers in any album, and it's just. He wrote a song for Nina Simone, and it was so good they kept it for themselves.
Yeah,
that is really special, and the album goes to a special place. And that album, a lot like Joshua Tree, it allows you to look back past work for U2 and go, oh, actually, they're better than I'm giving them credit for. I'm actually underrating what they've done. And you go back and you listen to the other songs and you find these other Easter egg items where you're like, oh, look at that. And there's just so much packed into every single U2 album. This one is no different. And they took a lot of chances, and a lot of the 80s bands didn't survive the 90s because they didn't land the marks. And that ultimately is what U2 does here, is they redefine themselves, and they band of 80s, yeah, undisputed. Band of the 90s, yes, undisputed again. They kept going.
Yeah. A lot of bands in the 80s didn't make it in the 90s because they got crushed by U2. So,
yeah.
And I know that that's not literal, but it also goes back to last week's album fight where we talked about Andy Summers having a hard time writing a song for fucking Sting.
Yes.
You damn near live with the dude. You can't fucking write a song for Sting.
And
you got Bono over here writing songs for Frank Sinatra and Nina Simone. And killing them.
Yeah. Luciano Pavarotti.
And killing them.
I wrote Bono as the anti-Andy Summers. I wrote my notes. Yeah. That solo from The Edge, by the way, isn't take one, because take one was too raw. They're like, that's too much. That's too hard. That's too gritty. He opened his heart too much.
Wow.
And he broke strings. In the one they published, he broke strings in that thing. And was just like, again, that's not eruption. That's a completely different. One's virtuosic and one is whatever the virtuosic synonym for effect is.
Yeah.
He gets to a place through the guitar in a way that no other guitarist ever has. Yep.
And as we know, he didn't break strings because it was cold in there and the strings were old and frail.
No.
Those strings were born that day.
Because, yeah, exactly. They were brand new strings, and yeah, he got there, and he found a way to take the too much and twist it back, and he found Bergie's edge. That's what this is. He found Bergie's edge, and Bono was able to play off of all of that stuff. Bono was there, by the way, pushing Edge to get to that spot.
Yeah.
That's trust.
Yep.
That's what bros from day one can do to each other. Get to that spot.
And go there when it's uncomfortable to go there. This was almost like in Achtung Baby, U2 straddled Bergie's edge several times. It was almost like they've gotten so good at Bergie's edge that they're the iron worker building the Chrysler building. They're sitting on the edge of an I-beam at 110 stories, and they're eating a sandwich.
Yeah, they're steel working and wearing ice skates.
Right.
And they're like, we're going to make this as hard as we can.
Uh-huh.
And still doing it.
Yeah. Hey, who's got some axle grease we can pour on this stuff?
Right? Can we make this harder? Yeah. I love this. I love doing these shows with you. I love the interaction on Twitter. We want everybody to interact with us because we know, look, we're not saying we're the only opinion. We're telling you ours because
it's right.
But we want to hear from you guys.
Yeah,
I'm going to drop in the Arb. He's going to talk to us for a couple of minutes.
Chris, tell me what you had from this fight. What were your thoughts from what you saw?
So, Pete, I have to tell you, this one was really tough. I actually listened to both albums in advance, just kind of tuned my ear. And just out of, pre-work impressions, I was thinking, it's probably going to go to U2 because they're, obviously the most experienced, the more polished. And then when I started going in and going track by track, that's when I found out it was a lot closer. Kind of going similar to the way you score it with the almost the boxing type scoring. I actually came down to it being U2 114, Nirvana 111. It was super close. The thing that pushed it over for U2 was when I hit round 3 with One versus Come As You Are. I felt like that was really, an example of where U2's polish and experience sort of beat out the young upstart there. That was one of those rounds where they just really put him on the knee. And then the next one for me that was a knockdown was actually Nirvana in round 6. I felt Polly because it was stripped down. It's got that great acoustic. It's sort of the raw Kurt Cobain at that point. I thought that one was actually the only time that U2 kind of took a knee to Nirvana. And then what swayed it was in round 8 with Mysterious Ways. When you're holding it up next to Drain You, it's like Nirvana comes out, they're throwing a lot of punches. They probably land more punches in that round. Then Mysterious Ways is just that haymaker that puts Nirvana on their knee. And so, yeah, that's what I had it as. 114 U2, 111 Nirvana.
So it sounds like you had a similar finding to John and I, where you had the younger, inexperienced, and top to bottom, the songs on U2 were just better as a whole. But, man, did Nirvana put up a fight.
I had a couple times in here, Pete, where, for instance, Smells Like Teen Spirit, I had that immediately to Nirvana. It's a generational song. It's a defining song. There were a couple times where I wrote in here where it was really, to me, it was a battle of Larry Mullen Jr. versus Dave Grohl.
Whoa.
And there's several times where I just have Dave in giant capital letters. I mean, he is just wailing on those drums, and yet there's not a beat missed. In fact, what's funny is in Polly, which is the one that I actually said I thought Nirvana kind of put U2 on the mat, he's only in there for like just one little at the very end. He's not there at all. It's just Chris creeping in with the bass line, and the rest is just Kurt Cobain raw and unedited, really. But yeah, I mean, I just have several situations where it's so close in terms of the raw power of Nirvana. And there's a couple times that actually the polish of U2 works against them in a few songs.
I want to ask you this too. When the album opens, they both have this opening of a declarative statement of things have changed. They both do that, and I agree with you.
Absolutely.
That Smells Like Teen Spirit changed it and landed that more. I mean, you're talking two great songs, but at the end, they both end on this dirge-like song where you have Love Is Blindness.
I'm so glad you brought that up.
Love Is Blindness.
So glad you brought that up.
Talk to me about the last round.
So for me, that actually was a really defining round. At that point, I feel like U2 had kind of caught back up from the mid-round, where I think Nirvana's power had kind of started to overtake them a little bit. And when you got to that final round, Love Is Blindness is such a beautiful song. I actually wrote a couple things here, just the sort of how it starts so soft and then it kind of builds that sort of funky, but never quite drifts that way. It doesn't overtake the song. I actually wrote several times through my notes that the Edge is playing while he's playing. It's almost like he's playing with his prey. He's playing with his food. He's hitting all those foot pedals that he's so famous for, manipulating all his sound. And then Something in the Way is, again, another one of those instances where it's the acoustics. And I love lyrics just like you do, but I'm also a sucker for harmonies. And usually U2, in this battle, it was U2 winning those harmonies almost every time. But in Something in the Way, that was one of those situations where I thought the harmonies were really sort of leaning towards Nirvana. I actually gave it to U2 for one very definitive reason. Although later versions of it now include the hidden track as a 13th track, I took this based on my experience of the first time I listened to it, where that hidden track was part of something in the way. And that 10 minutes of silence just absolutely kills it. You have two extremely beautiful songs, and then 10 minutes of silence followed by angsty noise, which I'm not taking anything from the experiments. It's very sort of Pink Floyd, Jimi Hendrix distortion going on at that hidden track. But U2 comes in, they start soft, they go funky, they lay it out, and then they walk away. It's a mic drop. It's just, I think that's where that experience comes in.
Well, there you have it. The three judges, all unanimous decision. They go for U2. We all recognize the power of the Nirvana album, but
absolutely,
here you have, like, we all just think that the polish and the professional level, when you're taking someone near peak or at their peak mid-career versus a band that is emerging. And unfortunately for Nirvana, that was it for them. They didn't have a whole lot more left in terms of albums, and U2 has proven to be able to go on and on and on. So this is the difference of being mid-career versus in the beginning. And man, I really appreciate you coming on the show, and I'm hoping that we can trick you into doing this again with us.
It was my pleasure, Pete. I love doing it. It was a lot of fun. It's a really great exercise in terms of, like you said, tuning the ear and just kind of listen to some different aspects of it. Like I said, I mean, I kind of went in. The way I do it is a little different, I think, than you guys. I do a pre-fight prediction, and then I go in and do the work and see how close to the mark I hit. So it's fun to find I was wrong, or in this case, I was right.
Yeah, fair enough. And I appreciate you chiming in. And we'll be up that next week. We're going to do Pink versus Alanis Morissette. So it's going to get dicey again because I've already previewed that fight, and it is tight.
And look, the point is U2 wins this fight, but there's a very powerful dissent, and we want to make sure that we give people a chance to do it. So please feel free to interact with us on Twitter. I'm at Pete A. Turner.
I'm at John LG69.
At the Yarb on Twitter.
And we are both at Break It Down Show.
And if you listen on YouTube, comment. Look, we want to hear from you. Everybody gets to have an opinion. All we ask is that you #do the work.
Yes, indeed. #do the work. Well, this was a victory and almost an overwhelm by U2 for an iconic record by Nirvana that we absolutely love. And, it had a time, it had a purpose, it had a meaning. It still carries a meaning. And it's an important record in history. And we want to salute all of that. Stay tuned next week. A matchup that I'm looking forward to, and that Christy has #do the work already on.
All right.
And that is Alanis Morissette, Jagged Little Pill, versus Pink, Misunderstood. And
oh boy,
I think if you do the work on that, you're going to figure out that it's something good. I'm looking forward to your comments about that.
Yeah,
and
likewise. Yeah, we want to hear from everybody on this. Yeah, for sure. Get in on it on Twitter. That's where most of the action's happening. Of course, follow us. We would appreciate any kind of subscriptions, any kind of follows, especially shares. Get people talking. And again, as always, the disclaimer here at the end of the show. This is done to appreciate each other, to talk about great music, and to buy great music. We support both these bands. We love their work. We've put them in an impossible situation for which they couldn't prepare. All they could do is put their work together, and we've decided to use this method as a means of measuring it. It's not meant to be they suck or they're whatever. It's meant to be a way to appreciate what's been done and take a look at the work in an all new way.
Hey, thanks, man.
Thank you.
Fuck, that was a good fight.